All right, guys, so we are continuing with angle relationships, and we are going to talk about 4 different angle types today. One of them we talked about last video, but we will get to that in just a second. So you will recognize one. But first, we're going to look at adjacent angles. And so adjacent angles All right, guys, so we are going to continue our talk about angle relationships, and today we are going to be looking at 4 different types. One of them you will recognize from our last video, and we're just going to take it a little bit further. But the first one we're going to talk about is supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are 2 angles that add up to 180 degrees. So 2 angles that add up are 2 angles that have a sum of 180 degrees. So the facts about supplementary angles is that they don't have to share a ray or be connected. So go ahead and write that in. They don't have to share a side or be connected. So the big thing about supplementary angles, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So let's draw some examples. So first off, a straight line is going to equal 180 degrees, right? So if we have 2 angles, these 2 do share a side, this side right here. But if we have 2 angles that form a straight line, we'll just call them angle A and angle B. That means that they are supplementary. Now, on the other hand, if we have 2 angles, like 1 and 2, okay, and we know that the measures for these 2 angles are 45 degrees and 135 degrees. What is 45 plus 135? Yes, those 2 together equal 180. So we know that these 2 are also supplementary angles. So those are the 2 things you need to look for with supplementary angles. You need to look for both angles forming a straight line, and you need to look for the measures adding up and equaling 180. So now let's look at an example problem. Angles A and B are supplementary. As soon as you see that word, you should know, oh, they equal 180 degrees. The measurement of angle A is 40 degrees. Find the measurement of angle B. So we need to do 40 plus what is 180. Well, obviously 40 plus 140 is 180. So angle B is 140 degrees. So those were supplementary angles. And like we were talking about, what you need to think about as soon as you see supplementary, it's 180 degrees, 2 angles that add up to 180. So now let's go to our next angle type. It's called complementary angles. So complementary angles are 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so just like supplementary added up to 180, complementary is basically going to be the same, except complementary, when you see it, you should think, okay, they're going to add up to 90 degrees. Another thing to remember about complementary angles, like supplementary, they don't have to share a side. Sorry, my handwriting is horrible on the stylus, with the stylus on the iPad. So, they don't have to share a side or be connected. Now, let's look at our illustrations on the bottom left. So, first off, just like supplementary, we do have a symbol or a type of angle that will let you know that it is complementary. So, complementary angles are going to have this little red box to show that it's 90 degrees. So if you have this little red box around your two angles, then that means that these two add up to 90 degrees and they are complementary angles. And we can just call this angle B and angle A again, okay? So that shows, but that red box shows that they're complementary. The same thing if you have two different angles. Remember, they don't necessarily have to be connected, but if you're given two different angles with angle measures, and one is 50 degrees and one is 40 degrees, are those complementary? Yes, they are complementary because 50 plus 40 equals 90 degrees. Now, let's go to our example problem. Angles A and B are complementary. What does it mean if angles A and B are complementary? That they equal 90 degrees, right? Find the measurement of angle, the measurement of angle A is 23 degrees. Find the measurement of angle B. So we know that 23 plus angle B should be 90 degrees because they're complementary. So we need to get our calculators and do 90 minus 23. And so angle B would be 67 degrees. And those are complementary angles. So the big thing with complementary angles, they are going to equal 90 degrees. All right, guys, so the next type of angle that we're going to look at is vertical angles. So vertical angles are two angles formed when two lines intersect and this is the main thing we talked about yesterday, and they are opposite each other. Ooh, I'm not sure what I did there. Okay, so I want to jump down to the illustrations part and make sure everybody understands what these angles look like. So there are two lines that are intersecting. Okay, so our vertical angles are opposite each other. So if this is one angle, the one across from it or opposite it is going to be the vertical angle here. If this is one, then what's the other one going to be? It's going to be right there. So those are your vertical angles. They are across or opposite from each other. The big thing in properties or facts that you need to take away from this, and we talked about it in the last video, is vertical angles are congruent. And what did we say congruent means? They are equal. Okay, so vertical angles, I'm going to write a big equal sign right here. What that means is they share the same measure. So if I say that this angle right here is 55 degrees, what is this angle? It's also 55 degrees, okay? Because vertical angles share the same measure. Now, let's look at angles A and B. So it says angles A and B are vertical angles. The measurement of angle A is 35 degrees. Find the measurement of angle B. So the first thing you should notice, if it says A and B are vertical angles, that means that they are equal. They're going to have the same measure. Okay, so if angle A is 35 degrees, what is angle B? Yes, angle B is 35 degrees. Good, so let's go to the last type of angle that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so the last type of angle that we're going to look at is adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are two angles that share a common side. Okay, so let's write that down. Two angles that share a common side. Okay, so and let's jump down to the illustration part again and make sure everybody understands what I mean when I say share a common side. So if angle A and angle B look like this, they would be adjacent because of this side right here. Because the side in red belongs to angle A and it also belongs to angle B. So they are sharing those sides, so we can say that they are adjacent angles. Now, let's look at the properties and facts section. So if these two adjacent angles form a straight line, then it's also going to be supplementary. So put when two adjacent angles form a straight line, it is also supplementary. Now, I want you to think back to supplementary angles. What did that mean? Meaning both angles together equal 180 degrees. So if we look over here, two adjacent angles that form a straight line, meaning A and B are your two angles. See how right here this forms a straight line? So these two angles together are what are making your straight line. That means that angle A and angle B together would equal 180 degrees. Now let's look at our example problem. The measurement of angle XYZ is 75 degrees. So X, Y, Z, you're going to trace everything. So this whole thing is 75. Find the measure of angle WYZ. So they want WYZ. They want to know what that is. Well, if the whole thing is 75, part of it is 47, what is that missing part? We just have to subtract, so we know that the missing part of the angle right here, this missing angle WYZ, is 28 degrees.